Pandemonium Reigns.
Yo, welcome to Pandemonium Reigns. Thank you for joining us. Mike, we're late coming to the people, but the good news with that is we've had a lot of time to think about Tennessee, Florida. Although we were, there was no alcohol in our system. We are of complete sober mind now. Emotions have subsided, and we've got a lot of Tennessee, Florida to talk about. But before we get into all the details and the nitty gritty, give me like a one word, one statement synopsis coming out of this 38-33 victory over Florida.
The overarching lasting one is relief. And that's because of the opportunity for as much bad as there was at the end of that game. So the overarching one is relief. I could certainly make a case for pandemonium. But overall it's relief because of the plays that Florida made and Tennessee did not make there at the end of that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's dive into it. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball.
Let's do it. Because
I think there is, well, maybe not more conversation there, but offense just was better. And so defense is going to bring a lot of conversation. Let's start up front. Let's start on the down linemen, those guys. I just want to start very quickly by saying, can we get Rodney a pay raise?
Man, he needs it. And I think we've talked about this before, and I think Auburn is still contributing there as far as Rodney's financials. But dude, he's got to be your second highest paid person behind Josh Heupel. Because the turnaround that we're seeing from a group that saw their position coach be fired mid-season a few seasons ago is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And you can't even there's really not many comparisons to Rodney Garner in terms of defensive line coaches. There are some, right? And there's definitely some good ones, but he's so good. He's the MVP of this staff, I think, right up there with the offense and what they're doing, and pay the man, pay him.
Absolutely. We had a lot of dudes rotate in and out on the defensive front. A lot of snaps for a lot of guys. Anybody stick out to you there on that defensive front?
I think your first one is Omari Thomas. I think he was the most consistent. I'm still waiting to rewatch this game. I haven't had a chance on any of the re-airs this week. Mm-hmm. I was of the opinion that Florida and Tennessee, but specifically caught it with Florida, I feel like, with some holds that prevented guys from like Byron Young from his opportunities to get home. And he did make some plays, don't get me wrong, but Omari was pretty consistent. He's really becoming a solid player. Really showing that potential that we thought he had coming out of high school.
Absolutely. You can almost compare his emergence. Is that the right word? I'm not sure if that's the right word or not. His manifestation to Matthew Butler of last year. I'm starting to wonder, coming out of this Florida game, for a guy like Omari Thomas, did he catch the eyes of some NFL scouts, some NFL franchises? Because dude had a heck of a game.
He sure did. And I think he had to, because it's between him and Byron Young, but those guys are really playing their best ball. Yeah. And Omari, his presence can be felt a little bit more, because if he gets through in that middle, that just causes so much havoc for an opposing offense. So, absolutely, I'd say he's catching eyes. I'd say he's making himself money this season. Mm-hmm. And I'm ecstatic for him because he's a Tennessee boy. So you'd love to see it. Yeah. You'd have to think it translates well for future recruiting in Memphis and in those areas that Tennessee's not always recruited very well.
Right. Another name that I want to throw out there that I don't think is getting enough talk is Bumpus. I think Latrell had a really nice game as well. Overall, we accounted for 13 quarterback hurries. Yeah. So Richardson got some pressure, and we're gonna get to this when we talk about the back end of the defense. But I thought Richardson was very elusive.
He was,
when he was under pressure, but we continue to bring pressure. And something that I've had time to think about is we did not pressure or blitz Richardson the way that we did Slovis.
Absolutely.
Slovis was, we're gonna if we lose, it's because we blitz too much.
We went full nuclear against Pitt, and
Yeah.
and I think we were rightfully scared to do that against Florida, because if you do that and you don't get home, then there's nobody to recover for his legs if he breaks contain, or if he, like he did all day, if he finds the open spot in the defense on that blitz, if it's over aggressive. You know, we made them drive the field, and they did it. Don't dare get me wrong. The defense did not have a good day.
Yeah.
But we did. I think the game plan was make them drive, make them put it together, make them do it consistently, and they did. It's the first time they've really done that all year, but they did.
Yeah, in regards to Richardson, I thought Richardson upped his play and played to the level that everyone thought that he could coming into the season. We got a very good Richardson that
Agreed.
day, and it kind of is what it is. But since we're on the topic of the defensive front, Richardson had 17 carries for 62 yards, and as a team, I think they just totaled what was this?
I think it was around 140.
Yeah, 140, 141 when they were coming into the game on 220-yard average.
Yeah.
So our run fits were spectacular, especially to have as many snaps as they did.
Yeah, and they outsnapped us. I know we want to run a lot of plays, but they outsnapped us by, I think, around 15. Don't quote me there, but because you mentioned it, I just want to relay this. Richardson was their leading rusher.
Yep.
He ran it 17 times for 62 yards. He only was sacked one time, so take that into consideration. That 62 yards is fairly accurate. You're not losing a ton on sacks or anything like that.
Yeah.
Etienne got the most carries of their backs, which I think says something. It's only by one carry. He only outrushed Naquan Wright and Montrell Johnson Jr. by one carry. Right. But I think, and I had the expectation that they would hit at least one big run out of their standard offense, not their, design quarterback runs or anything like that. But I thought their standard run game would hit at least one big run, if not have a big day. But they gave Etienne. No, they didn't. They gave Etienne 9 carries, and the other 2 got 8 carries. He totaled 35 yards with a long of 14. Wright was 8 for 26 with a long of 9. And Johnson was 8 for 18 with the touchdown that he did get. But his long was 7. 7 of his 18 yards came on one carry. And again, I can't say enough for the run defense. I mean, even Richardson getting 62 yards, he's just got big play potential with those legs. He's not shown it with his arm, and he did Saturday. But I think, as well as Tennessee having not a great day defensively and in zone like we played, something's going to happen. Something's going to give in this Florida game. Tennessee's found ways to lose it. Richardson rose to the moment, capitalized. But again, Tennessee definitely has some things to clean up. But Richardson played to the moment that it was. Played a great game.
Absolutely. And credit to their offensive coordinator, because I thought whoever he is called a heck of a game, did exceptionally well. Putting Richardson in some run calls, some power runs, some QB sweeps that were able to pick up first downs. But overall, defensive line, I'm happy with it. I don't think we played to our ceiling. But
Agreed.
You know what? But it was good enough to get the job done. I'm really pleased with the run defense. But let's move back into the defense here, and let's talk linebackers. Something that I want to point out very quickly before we begin: Aaron Beasley didn't get this start. You and I were standing in the stadium, and I'm going, it's Jawan Mitchell and it's Jeremy Bakes. What is going on?
Yeah.
The only thing that I can think about is Jawan's top end speed better than Beasley's? Is his sideline speed? Are they worried that Richardson's just gonna get out? Are they thinking that Jawan is the guy who can chase him down? A little disappointed in that, actually, because we've gone on here several times saying Aaron Beasley is that dude.
Yeah.
So, but needless to say, Beasley got a lot of snaps. Not like he didn't play; he just didn't get that start. So anyway, thoughts, linebacker, go.
Yeah. Banks had a pretty solid day. I'm going to go ahead and clarify that's more against the run than the pass. I do want to say, watching it real time, I didn't make much of it, but seeing highlights of the play where he got the hit on Richardson, I think Richardson threw this one away. He may have completed the pass. I can't remember, but he was lucky to avoid his, token 15-yard penalty that he's been known for. He's played a clean season so far, but
Right.
he's been known for 15-yard penalties. He was lucky to avoid it there, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think if there's one area that the refs let the dudes play, it was in that after the whistle, approaching the whistle type realm of the game, because God knows they did call, the holds and the other things, but everything else, they were pretty much lenient, let the guys play.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think the linebackers were, how can you not say great against the run? A team that goes over 200 yards against Utah, who's tough defensively,
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, who's tough defensively, and then, let's not even mention the USF game, but the linebackers did well, I think, against the run.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to rewatching this game because I want to know, and one thing I'll touch on in a minute is all of the soft spots that Richardson was able to find in the zone. Just the sit downs, it felt like, is how they kept their offense alive. Was that on the linebackers? Were they not in the proper depth or dropping to the correct, spot in the zone, or were the receivers just making plays? And I know that a lot of it is on the corners as well, and the safeties.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone did spectacular against the pass. The defensive line had the best day against the pass, but they didn't get home enough, even though they did play well.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward to rewatching this game to see how the linebackers were against the pass, because I just don't know how he found so many dudes where he did and how he did.
Well, yeah, going back to what I said earlier here, he did a great job of eluding pressure. And
He did.
And he was able to find open receivers. Putting this back into the lens of our side of the ball, we ran a lot of zone. And the reason we ran a lot of zone is because regarding the linebackers and secondary, it's all about your eyes. So if you're running man, it's eyes on your man. If you're running zone, it's actually eyes on cue and trying to keep peripheral of the dudes in your zone, which tells me they were worried about Anthony Richardson taking off running. The problem with that is the how wide open dudes were.
Absolutely.
And an inability to get there. How easy it was for Florida receivers to find the soft spot in the zone and sit there for the extended period of time that they were able to sit there.
Agreed completely.
So linebacker play on the run defensive side, we're saying what everybody else has already said. Hey, we played exceptionally well. Our run fits were well. We had great gap assignment, great gap discipline. As far as the passing game goes, I have to attribute this to, we were just worried he was going to take off running.
I agree.
And we go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just going to say, and you and I have heard from a very reliable source, the way that Tim Banks plays the analytics game, the way that he's going to roll the dice based on what you've shown.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, Richardson's legs were probably the greatest. They're the greatest threat in this game.
Absolutely.
If he kills you with his legs, that's just debilitating. it is. So I think we saw Banks play the odds and the analytics game all day. Like you're saying, we made Richardson find the soft spots. He did, but he's not done that to this point of the season. So some credit is due to him.
Absolutely.
Some definite cleanup for Tennessee to perform. But we played the analytics game based on what Florida has shown who they are.
Yeah. I think Banks's idea here going into this game was, if Anthony Richardson is going to be us, it's going to be because he threw the ball, because we haven't seen him do it yet. And we stuck to that to the very end.
Agreed.
And it showed in that final possession where we are 15 to 20 yards off the ball, which I hate.
Oh, man.
Defense. I hate prevent defense, especially when they're on our side of the field.
Yeah.
I was not in agreement with that at all. If you're going to play off, okay, play off 8 to 10 yards. 15 to 20, I was not a fan of. But anyway, I think that shows us that Banks was like, if he's going to do it, it's going to be because of his arm.
Agreed completely.
But you know what? Again, props to Richardson. He played well. He made some terrible throws.
Yes, and I was going to touch on this as well. Early in that game and in moments of that game, I was saying things like, he's not good. He's terrible.
Yeah.
Just the misses that he did have. And heck, he was 24 for 44. That's not a good completion percentage at all. It's close to 50%, just above.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, again, going back on the rewatch that I'm excited to do is, I don't know how he got, I made a joke in my notes, 4,500, 450 yards. I don't know how he had 450 yards, because it felt like it was just a game of check down, 10-yard throw, pass the sticks. So I'm curious where those yards came from. And like it adds up because you saw Pearsall and Shorter go over 100 yards. But I just like if a quarterback throws for 450, I'm thinking, man, he was just chucking it. It was bomb after bomb. You know what I mean? That's my takeaway if I see that number. But I'm curious where they came from because it doesn't feel like it adds up until I rewatch it, I guess.
No, I get it. I mean, Shorter had a long of 39. Pearsall had a long of 38. Henderson had a long of 22. Zipperer had a long of 44. What a weird name, by the way. Zipperer.
Keon Zipperer.
His long was 44. So they found chunk plays.
They did.
The problem for us, they found most of them on 3rd and 4th down on those critical down situations. That completion, I believe it was to Zipperer, the touchdown in the first quarter. I believe it was him.
Yes, it was.
I want Tennessee fans to hear this. Anthony Richardson makes a heck of a play by eluding a sack 2 or 3 times there. There was multiple occasions where we could have got him down. Instead, he eludes it. He puts the ball on a rope to this guy, and then Kamal Haddon misses 2 tackles.
Yeah.
And I think Trayvon got blasted, and he finds his way to the end zone. But anyway, talking about linebackers, you know what? Run defense, solid. Pass defense, that's got to improve. And it makes me, as we get into the secondary here, it makes me think that Jaden Daniels is going, licking his chops, like about to put up some numbers right here.
It makes me, I agree with that. And I think the LSU receivers are similar, but they are different than Florida's. They have that speed that scares you. I mean, if Boutte, if he figures it out, if he puts it together, he could go off. I mean, he truly could.
Sure.
Now, my other question is going to be, and we've got a lot of time, we've still got 10 days plus here to think about it, is what tendencies, what analytical aspect is Tim Banks going to play to take away or try to take away from LSU? Their run game is their true run game, handoff to the running back, probably doesn't scare me as much as Florida's. Yeah. But Daniels, though he's not as big and imposing as Richardson, he may have a little bit more top end speed. So the quarterback run will be, again, hugely important to take away and watch, but their receivers have a different level than I think those Florida receivers have. But you can't let another team just sit there and throw at the sticks. You got to take that away, find a way.
Yeah. So my concern going forward from here, as let's shift the conversation into the secondary. My concern going forward from here is last year Pitt ran this halfback toss pass, I remember what it was, where they found a touchdown of that. How many times did we see that from teams going forward after that happened? My concern now is how many teams are just going to say, you know what? All we got to do is pass the ball to beat these guys. Yeah. You know what? Hey, if you're going to show us that kind of defense, we can get into these scoring matches, and it's either going to be whoever has the ball last wins, or we'll take this puppy into overtime. All right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about secondary for a second. Everybody in this world knows how atrocious it was. So I want to ask 2 questions to you. First question is, going into this game, had I told you that Anthony Richardson is going to pass for 453 yards, are you gonna bank this as an L for us? 2, is there any positive out of our secondary coming out of this Florida game?
If you tell me that Richardson throws for 450, there's no way I can see that as a Tennessee win. I mean, I'm seeing that as a beatdown.
Oh,
frankly.
Absolutely.
Maybe I take my mind to, well, they probably didn't run well, or we had them playing from behind. But no, you can't tell me if this guy who's not passed the ball well throws for 450 that we're not getting killed by that performance. Positives from the secondary, man. I guess they did keep everything in front of them, but I still don't view that as much of a win because the throw was there to the sticks all day. Pitt killed us with that dig across the middle last year, and teams passed well against us last year for the most part. But the only positive that, and it's a reach, is that we kept things in front of us. We didn't give up the huge play other than the Zipper 44-yard touchdown where missed tackles were an aspect, but there's not many positives. I don't have many good feelings other than maybe with other teams, we forced them. The quarterback's not able to avoid the pressure. The defensive line gets there like they did with Slovis, like they did with the backup there at Pitt. Wow, blanking. But yeah, maybe the rush gets home and the quarterback's not as elusive. Is the only Nick Patty. Thank you.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Took me a second.
That's the only thing that I can really kind of jump back to or maybe see as an improvement, because I think personnel is what it is. And, we're going to add D Williams to the mix at some point. Warren Burrell should get healthy at some point, but I think these guys are largely who they are. You said this on our first recording that these safeties are who they are. And you were so right on that. I mean, they almost feel like they're playing a little bit worse than they have in the past. And I just can't figure out why that is. I mean, they're veterans, they're seasoned. I don't know, man. Well,
a couple of thoughts on the safety since we're talking about it. In the Pitt game, Trayvon Flowers was a roller coaster, right?
He sure was.
We saw some greatness out of him and we saw some lows. I don't know what to say about Trayvon Flowers and Jalen McCullough coming out of this Florida game. That was not good.
No.
Secondly, I want to say about Jalen McCullough and Trayvon Flowers is Martinez, position coach. He's going with those guys. They got all the snaps.
He's going with those guys.
He's going to ride or die with Jalen and with Tank, or Jalen and Trayvon. It's 2 and it's 1 for the rest of this season. We're not going to see anybody else, and barring injury, right?
Yeah.
So as we shift conversation to the corner a little bit, we saw a Christian Charles play, we saw Kamal Haddon play, we saw Turnage play, we saw Walker play, a lot of bodies. Okay, so a couple thoughts here. I saw when these guys were running out of the tunnel by one of our media guys that D. Williams was actually dressed.
He was. I think he was a absolute emergency option.
Okay.
But he was dressed, and it was reported initially, I think, that he wasn't dressed. He was not an option. But I do think he was maybe a last resort, like if guys are just dropping, like we've seen before, that he could be an option. But other than that, I don't believe he was much of an option on Saturday.
Yeah. Second thing that I want to say about this is regarding Warren Burrell. We now know why he plays.
Absolutely, we know why he plays. And Haddon, probably his worst game since we've seen him get any playing time, because last year he didn't get much playing time until the bowl game and later in the season. So I just wonder where he's at. Is it a confidence thing? Did he lose some of that confidence that he maybe had in that Pitt game? Because in the Pitt game, I thought he was pretty good. Yeah. It was mostly Burrell and throws over the middle that were hurting us, tight ends and things like that. And their run game was better than Florida's overall, I think. But I wonder where he's at, because he's been probably the bright spot for the corners to this point, I would say.
Yeah. So on this conversation, you just triggered a thought here. In regard to the Pitt game, we were able to get home more.
Yeah,
we landed some sacks. We got a lot of QB hurries against Anthony Richardson, but we didn't get home. We got home twice.
One sack.
One sack. Okay, so that speaks a lot. So even though the run fits were great for defensive line and for linebackers, we didn't get home, and a lot of that reflected in our secondary. And I'm not so sure, what all attributed to that. Richardson being elusive, consistent pressure. I'm not sure. However, going forward, all of that has to be better, because Jaden Daniels is a better passer. I don't know about top end speed compared to an Anthony Richardson, but he can move. All right.
He sure can.
So we're going to have our work cut out for us. So secondary overall, you know what? Not good, but they did enough to get us a win.
Agreed. And the defense does deserve a little bit of credit, because early in the game, they created the opportunity for Tennessee to be up 10 or 14-0 with the first fourth down was the only one that Tennessee stopped. That's not a plus, but again, they got Florida off the field because they were driving and Florida went for it. They were very aggressive, and I think that's because of Tennessee's offense. And I know Napier's an aggressive coach, but super aggressive on Saturday. And I think that's because of Tennessee's offense, and maybe knowing that he's not going to get enough stops to win over 4 quarters. So Tennessee does get them off the field on that first fourth down. Florida misses a long field goal on the second drive. Tennessee had its opportunities. There was a Princeton fumble. I know we'll talk about that in the offense, but the defense did just enough. Now, we would probably have a different vibe and feel for this game if Tennessee goes on to win by 17, or if they get that first down there on the last drive where they were short on the fourth down there. We probably have a different feel for this defense, but while they did do enough to just win that game, they were close to being able to create a 14 to 17 point win.
Absolutely. And if that Florida kicker knocks down that field goal, you can't tell me that Napier goes for two, those two occasions that he does, and we're looking at an entirely different ballgame. So that missed field goal was huge for our defense. So before we shift to the offense here, give me I don't do we want to call it a most valuable defensive player? Do we want to call it a most important, most impactful? Give me a name and tell me why that guy was. Let's go with most valuable on the defensive side.
I think just, again, and maybe until I rewatch this game, or maybe it's just the opinion or the commentary that I have heard, but I think it's Omari Thomas for me, man, because he was consistently just causing some type of havoc for that Florida offensive line that has created a good running game so far for them to this point. Mm-hmm. And he was a part of some of those pressures. He forced a fumble on Florida's drive where they turned it over in the red zone, I believe, or very close to the red zone if they were just outside of it. Mm-hmm. It's got to be Omari for me, just because of the consistency. I think he's that was the level of consistency that we need out of just a handful more guys to really have a very high ceiling with this team.
Agreed. I agree, and I'm going to mirror that and say Omari Thomas. I think there was potential for another guy, but this guy just didn't get as many snaps. Now, Byron Young led us in QB hurries with 4. Joshua Josephs didn't get near as many snaps, and he had 2 QB hurries. This dude he's impactful when he's on the field. I don't know why he's not getting more snaps. I think if he gets, let's say, 15 to 20 more snaps, which the snaps were there. The snap count was there. Every opportunity was there for him to get snaps. He just didn't get it for whatever reason. I would say if that was the occasion, we would be talking about him.
I agree completely. In fact, he was there when Florida, they had a penalty on the kickoff. I think they started their drive from the 4. He was very close to forcing a safety on that drive. Yes. Very close. I'm so excited to see that play when I rewatch this game. But Joseph's got a lot of playing time. Tyree West got a significant amount of playing time. I want it to be more. Don't dare get it twisted. I'm excited for the future of this front because I was so worried, coming off last season, losing Matthew Butler. He's your Omari Thomas right now, but
he was the anchor.
Maybe a step better maybe. Mm-hmm. But dude, they're proving that there are going to be options, I think. And credit to Rodney Garner, credit to the guys that are identifying these guys out of high school, like Joshua Josephs, like James Pierce, who we've not seen as much, but again, the fact that he'll be there when these guys graduate and leave, just very encouraging.
Absolutely. Very, very. I want to just echo that. Very excited for those guys. And correct me if I'm wrong. I actually had this thought this morning. Aaron Beasley's going to have a COVID year, is he not?
I believe he will. I can't. Man, this is going to be one of those things that's so hard to keep straight just until these guys cycle out of college rosters. But he may very well have a COVID year available. That'll be fascinating to look at as the season, comes a little bit closer to the end. Who's got the year available, who doesn't? But he very well may.
That could be huge for us next year if we can get an Aaron Beasley back. Because right now, I don't know that he's NFL draft quality yet.
Yeah.
Again, we're week 4, so a lot of football left to be played, a lot of time to prove himself. But be massive if we could have him back. All right,
absolutely.
Let's talk offense. Here's my one-word synopsis. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, wow. If you had told me under the Pruitt era that if you will just hang on, there is one coming who is who is greater. Just hang tight. This guy's going to get fired, right? And there's one that is coming who is going to let it rip. I'd be like, fire him now. How much do you want? Right?
Yeah. Can I contribute?
take my money. Let's start a GoFundMe. Maybe I should start an OnlyFans account. Just tell me, just tell me what I need to do. I will sell my body. Let's get Pruitt out of here, and let's get whoever he is. Let's get this guy in here. Let's start in the backfield. Okay.
Yes.
Offensively, you and I both said, well, we said this since Ball State. We can't run.
Yeah.
We can't run. But you know what? We ran.
Outside
of Hooker, we ran. Jabari Small was 19 for 90, a 39 yard. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. His long of was 39, averaging 4.7 yards a carry, and had a score. Jalen Wright didn't get as many touches, and he was good for 2.5 yards per carry. But I thought his touchdown run looked aggressive. That was an 11-yard run. You know what? I like Jabari Small. This game got me excited about him again because I was coming out of the first 3 weeks going, dadgummit.
Yeah, man.
Doesn't it
absolutely.
So.
Oh, absolutely. I was bummed about him. I was like, he looks like he maybe has lost a step. He's not looking like he's going to reach those projections that we put. Mine was low. It was lower than maybe it should have been in the 800, 875 range, I think. Mm-hmm. But Jabari was a warrior, man. With that shoulder that got dinged, no doubt, a week ago, and the shoulder that gave him fits all year last season, was a warrior. 19 for 90. That'll do. You know what I'm saying?
That'll do.
I've been very critical. You've heard it. We talk about it often. I don't know if we have on here as much, but I've been very critical of Jalen Wright's vision. And even though he didn't contribute as much as Jabari Small, when I see those highlights and when I see the game from Section EE, as we did a week ago, I thought the vision started to develop, especially on like that touchdown run. That he made a quick decision. Brenton Cox kind of forced it. Yeah. He was around that edge quick, but he made a quick decision, got his face mask tugged, did the gator chomp and the throat slash. It was a thing of beauty that will be in our minds on replays and highlights for years to come. And I think it's possible that if he will apply that, he can really turn that corner. I think that vision took a small step. And I think Jabari was an absolute warrior.
Absolutely. I want to comment just on this Jalen Wright touchdown run just for a second, because he enters into the end zone. He gator chops 3 times and then throat slashes. And less than 2 yards away to his left is the ref staring that down. I want to
looking it in.
Yeah, I want to recall everybody to 2017 when John Kelly houses this screen, which we ran on every third down that year. Kelly houses it, gator chomps, throat slashes,
15-yard penalty.
15-yard penalty, personal foul. Let's just talk about this just for a minute. That reffing crew was trash.
They were
horrendous. On both ends, for us
absolutely.
And for them. I thought they favored us a little bit more, actually, but they were bad, and they were a special kind of bad, especially head referee.
Agreed. I mean, the 2 touchdown reviews, and like as bad as they were, doesn't discount Napier's freak out and 15-yard penalty and fresh set of downs. That does not discount that, because frankly, this crap happens every week in every game almost. Yeah. And you don't see coaches melt down. Yes, you see coaches get fired up. I mean, you saw Heupel in the bowl game last year dropping some not pretty words, as he should have. But Napier had no excuse. But those reviews on Florida's touchdown from Anthony Richardson on the drive before and on Jabari Small's touchdown that was reviewed and upheld as not a touchdown, absolutely horrendous. And that doesn't even address non-holds on both teams, I think. I'm excited. If I get a hankering, I may just chart those when I rewatch this game, because I think there were a lot of them. Yeah. And now Tennessee did have a couple called, took a touchdown back off of one. But yeah, absolutely, this officiating crew was horrendous.
Yeah, I want to tell a little story here, and I want to make a comment. So I'm standing at football practice on Monday with the high school, and the position coach for the receivers is talking about placement of the hands, how you need to get them inside, basically up underneath the armpits, and how we did a bad job last week of getting our hands outside. And he said, getting your hands outside is good for a holding call every single time. We have to get our hands inside. And as he's saying this, I'm going, he must not watch a lot of college football, because refs are trash.
They sure are. Yeah, just bear hug a guy, and maybe you'll get called, maybe you won't. Flip the coin.
I mean, talking about we've totally abandoned the topic of the backfield. Now we're on the officiating, but talking about the officiating, and we do need to transition back. not only did Jalen Wright get in, or was it Jabari? Forgive me.
Jalen Wright.
It was Jalen. Not only did Jalen get in, his whole body got in, and then the two guys, offensive linemen behind him, got.
And I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the throat slash. That was Jabari Small.
Okay,
on the play
Jabari,
you're talking about.
You're right. Yep. So not only did Jabari get in, his whole body got in, and two offensive linemen behind him, shoving him in, were across the plane.
Yeah.
I just don't have words. I mean, Jalen Wright's on the sideline going, yep, because he's thinking 2021 Pitt. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Whatever. All right, let's transition back to the offensive side of the ball here. All right, so back to the offense we go, because I know that you anyway could harp on officials for a long time.
Whole episode if you would like.
Listeners, my boy was mad. He was hot inside that stadium, and the
Sure
officials
was.
had a lot to do with it, and
Absolutely
could be also be the I'll about to say the officials, the Florida fans about 3 to 4 rows behind us.
Love you guys. Don't miss you.
So let's move our way out. Just capping very quickly, Jabari and Jalen. Hey man, well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Better game.
Welcome to the season, right? So receivers. Wow. Right?
Wow, dude.
So Brew McCoy is that dude, right? I mean,
absolutely that dude. I mean, wow. It's just clutch. I mean, the tough grab on the touchdown before half. Tough grab. Now, I credit the scheme that we drew up on his 70-yard reception that set up. Sorry, that was a different touchdown that it set up, but it set up points.
Mm-hmm.
I credit the scheme and the execution, and I credit Florida doing what teams do when you're pressured like this. They had a lapse, and they had a couple on the day, but credit to Hooker for hitting that. Credit to McCoy for taking it almost to the house. Very clutch performance, over 100 yards for the first time. I just want to go ahead and drop this for you. In his career, he had 13 catches, 211 yards, and 2 touchdowns at USC for Brew McCoy. Okay. And like we just said, he had his first career 100-yard game at Tennessee this week. And let's see if I can find his numbers. I'm sorry. He had 21 catches for 236 and 2 touchdowns at USC.
Okay.
He has 13 catches for 211 and 2 touchdowns at Tennessee through 4 games. So he is 25 yards short. He has the same number of touchdowns on 8 less receptions. And there were people criticizing this move, asking, would he be like a backup to Tillman, because he's a similar build. He's not as fast as Tillman, maybe not as explosive going up and getting the ball, but is he like a backup to Tillman? What is he? No, dog. He's got wide receiver 1 potential. Like, he's clutch. He is physical. You don't like to bring a guy like that down if you're a defender, because he's bigger and he's plenty fast. Then we ain't even talking yet about Ramel Keaton, dude.
Well, hang on, because I have some comments on on Brew, because Ramel deserves some talking time.
Sure enough.
But let me say a couple things on Brew before we get to Ramel. Brew's top end speed is not great.
Right.
Okay. Because if that is on his wide open reception where he gained the majority of his yards, if that's Tillman, definitely if that's Hyatt, it's in the end zone. So his top end speed is not great. His hands are great. His burst coming out of his breaks are quick. He can come out of it, and my goodness, he is so physical.
Absolutely.
We need to be considering some packages, maybe where he's more inside, not necessarily slot, but maybe off the back hip of a Princeton Fant or a Jacob Warren, where he can get a mismatched lineup, because he is physical enough to hold a block. He can block. If I guarantee you, if he's coached and coached well, he will be able to hold block just as good as our tight ends can. I would, especially if Ramel is going to rise the way that he did. Okay. Because we can line up Tillman, Hyatt, Ramel, whoever on the outside, and line up a Warren and a McCoy on the inside, and create some mismatched looks for Brew, because Brew is that dude. Okay, his touchdown catch. Credit to Hooker for putting that where only Brew could get it.
Absolutely.
But Brew, I mean, when you go back and watch this game, watch how fast Brew comes out of his break when he catches this touchdown. I mean, it's quick. Okay.
Absolutely.
But Ramel Keaton, in my mind,
my gosh, Ramel Keaton,
in my mind, play of the game, because if he doesn't catch this Superman grab, right, we don't score. Unless Heupel works up something else, but
yeah,
he's the reason that we got in the end zone eventually. Talking about Brew, who catches this touchdown to cap off this drive, dude. Hey man, we have said this on a previous podcast. This guy could have left. He could have been
absolutely
gone. You know what? But he is rising. He is, and dude, I'm here for it. Our receiving room. It's deep, bro.
It's deep. And I'm sorry, this is going to take some of our time, maybe unnecessarily, but I remember watching the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs last year, and a wide receiver by the name of Gabriel Davis went bananas for the Bills. And I'm thinking, where's this guy from? Then I see that he's from UCF and was there when Heupel and co were down there. And guess what he did at UCF? He went off consistently. But I'm thinking, didn't really know that guy. I've never really heard his name, and here he is going off in a freaking playoff game against the Chiefs. Just guy after guy that haven't done much consistently, especially Cedric Tillman a year ago. Jalen Hyatt having a very strong season so far, making plays on Saturday. And then you lose a guy like Cedric Tillman, who is so proven and so trusted by his quarterback. And Ramel Keaton's like, I can kind of do it too. Like, you want me to do it? Goes out, makes, somebody said on Twitter, the catch of the year. I'm sorry, the catch of the 2000s is what someone said on my timeline.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking like, wow, dude, that's a great point. Like, yes, it continued that drive. It set up the touchdown to Brew. I mean, again, somebody that could have left. Tillman had to be re-recruited by the staff, we've heard, when they got here, because he frankly wasn't used and had 8 catches at that point of his career. Just phenomenal job with these wide receivers. Whether these guys go consistently do these things in the NFL or not, this works in college football.
Yeah. So let me just piggyback off Ramel Keaton for a second. In 2019, 4 catches, 104 yards. In 2020, 9 catches, 76 yards. Last year, 7 catches, 72. He's got 8 catches on the year for 183 yards. And you know what? We've lost Tillman, right? After this year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt will be back. Dear God, Brew McCoy will be back. But if not, Ramel's going to have another year because of COVID.
Yeah, he does have that COVID year. And like, we're getting hung up on this huge play, rightfully so. The catch was phenomenal, securing the ball, not letting it touch the ground, phenomenal. But he had some very nice comebacks and picked up a very clutch first down early in that game. I think first or second drive. It was like 2nd and 16. He catches it short of the sticks, makes 2 guys miss for a first down. Just completely solid play out of these receivers. They're getting better. I want to mention this, and again, I'm sorry if I'm taking up time that we didn't plan on it, but
you're good.
I look back at like a guy like Javonte Payton. All right. At Mississippi State, he had 28 catches for 372 yards and a touchdown in 2 seasons because he was a JUCO kid. At Tennessee last year, he only had 18 catches, 413 yards, more than he had in 2 years at Mississippi State, and 6 touchdowns. Like, they're building this up to where that's kind of the norm. Like, re-begin your career. Hendon Hooker is a great example. Receivers galore are examples. It's going to translate well in the game of college football.
Absolutely. The only thing that I could criticize Ramel Keaton of so far on the year is, I've said this about Hendon Hooker. He's just a bit light-footed. get your feet underneath you, be able to make some moves, make a defender miss, because he just doesn't really have that to his game right now.
Yeah.
But man, what a grab. I just hope going forward that catch by him creates confidence for him. And I would love to see him catch 4 or 5 balls in Baton Rouge next Saturday and build on his confidence.
100%.
And I feel, going into this Florida game, we were like, oh no, Tillman, oh gosh. Now it's like, we want you, but we don't have to have you.
Yes. And this is the guy who 2 weeks ago got 18 targets on the road at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
18 targets.
Yeah.
And Hendon went his way time after time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Hendon did a really good job at this game of not necessarily like, hey, and maybe this is growth for Hendon, but he's like not just looking one way or the other. I think early in the game, he was looking for those out routes to Hyatt and the tight ends, but dude, he was spreading it around. The receivers were getting open, making plays after the catch. Just can't say enough about the growth there. And I'm with you. Losing a guy like Tillman going into the Florida game was just nightmarish, and we made the plays without him.
Yeah. Think about this. If Ramel can continue this trend, if Hyatt can continue his trend, and Tillman comes back, my goodness.
My word, Howard, you can't defend that.
Hey, put 9 in the box. I dare you.
Please.
Please. I dare you. And you know what? Florida showed us a lot of single high safety looks and, dared us to run the ball, and run game came through. But it was like, you know what? They're throwing the ball everywhere. We've got to get back into a 2 high safety look. So yeah, I just hope, and I hope this is not wishful thinking, that this is not even a ceiling for this passing game, because it's nasty. It's so nasty. So let's move to the position where it all kind of begins, which is the offensive line. We've got I don't know when the last time this has happened, but SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week and Mr. Spraggins, dude had a game.
He sure did.
I'm so pleased with Pass Pro so far. It's been, because there was an episode coming into the season where we're both looking at the offensive line going, oh boy, can it ever just kind of all come together for us? If it's this, then it's not that. If it's receivers, then we don't have the quarterback, or whatever it is. But hey, man, Spraggins is going to make some money on Sundays.
He sure is. He's playing that way. Carvin, I feel like, has been, for the most part, his same solid self. Mincy, why does Florida let a guy like Gerald Mincy leave?
Well, you know what?
What are you doing?
That's funny that you say that, because I've gone back and seen some highlights, and I wasn't all that impressed with Mincy. He go back and watch it. Listeners, go back and watch it. Just tell me if I'm off on this. I don't know. It felt like a little disappointing, I guess, from Mincy. And there was that one occasion where we thought he was going to lose his cool. Was that Mincy? Drawing a blank here.
It might have actually. Are you talking about when they pushed us back into the end zone?
Yes.
I think that might have been Carvin, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Don't quote me.
Overall, as a unit, man, I'm pleased, because Florida's got some dudes in up front, and Brenton Cox, and we held, what's his name, Desmond Watson.
Yeah.
Do I dare say on the internet what I called him in the stadium? Can I do it?
I think you could do it.
I so bad wanted to start an Aunt Jemima chant every time that boy is he's cake, man.
Dude, can you imagine trying to feed that dude?
Oh, my gosh.
Anybody that size that's a growing young man, could you imagine trying to feed that dude?
Oh my goodness, Mr. Kodiak Cake himself. Anyway, so great performance, I thought, out of offensive line, and that's coming from pass pro and run game. There wasn't a ton of running lanes there. We had to bounce some stuff, and I'm pretty sure Jabari Small's run was because it was bounced. I know Jalen Wright's touchdown was because it was bounced. But you know what? We accounted for 227 yards rushing. And
I thought this would be a game where the trend of whoever runs best, or whoever wins the rushing contest. Whoever wins that battle wins the game. I
Mm-hmm.
thought this would be a game where that was broken because I expected Tennessee to win, but I definitely didn't expect Tennessee to win the rushing battle because Florida's ran it well and because their quarterback has that ability as well. But yeah, man, credit to the offensive line for kind of doing maybe what the defense we would like to see out of them is doing just enough. The running backs capitalized. Hendon certainly capitalized. Yeah, overall, good performance from those guys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you said it, so let's go there. Hendon is that dude. Listen, he is catching so much attention coming out of this Florida game, and I think what is not getting enough talk because everybody's talking about his getting out of pressure and breaking a long run. Everybody is talking about his placement of balls. I don't hear anybody talking about that completion percentage. He was 22 for 28.
22 for 28 in the Tennessee Florida game. I mean, Dobbs had a couple great games against Florida, but I'm betting it didn't look like 22 for 28. Listen, dude, 2 incompletions in the second half. 2 incompletions in the second half.
I didn't know that. Holy cow.
Only had 6 for the game, 2 in the second half. That is, how do you do that? Like, that's so good.
Well, I'm not sure what point we started to slow down that offense, but we slowed it down. We got out of our mojo. We got out of the things that we like to do, and Hendon was still Hendon.
Agreed. He was still executing, and I think, this is going to be a semi-obvious statement, but he played his best game in terms of not having those high throws, throwing the ball on time, hitting guys more in stride than he has to this point of the season. And let's just say this as well. You and I both thought that ball to Ramel Keaton was overthrown. And frankly, Keaton did have to, if he catches that in stride, he may score on that play.
Oh, yeah.
But we both thought it was overthrown. But he didn't have those overthrows and those high throws that he's had this year. And let's also acknowledge that he had a couple drops. It could have been better than 22 of 28. That's just territory that guys don't approach consistently at all.
Yeah.
So fantastic game. In order to receive any Heisman talk, he had to have a big game against Florida. He did have a big game against Pitt, but you can't have a loss or especially have the team lose because of you against the Florida when Tennessee's supposed to win. He's earning the talk, and hearing what I've heard about him, he doesn't like that attention. So I don't think it's going to impact him negatively like it might go to other guys' heads. He's a seasoned vet. He's been there. He's not ever had this level of success, but seasoned vet. I hope he maintains this level of play and can end up in that Heisman conversation because he deserves it, frankly. I talked about not being able to put my love for him into words in the offseason. I'll never be able to put it into words after Saturday.
Need you to write a book, boy.
I can do it right now. I'll start right now.
So call me crazy. I'm going to make a statement. You tell me if you agree or not. Tillman being out turned out to be a really good thing for Hendon Hooker because Tillman was targeted 18 times against Pitt. We were snapping the ball. Hooker was looking to Tillman.
Yeah.
Where is he at? Right?
Yep.
And now Hooker's like, you know what? I'm that dude. Cedric, record this. Pull out your phone. Watch me whip and nay. I cannot believe I just said that joke. Okay. Yeah. So 5 catches for Brew, 3 for Ramel, 5 for Jalen, 1 for Jacob Warren, 5 for Princeton. Good for Princeton. And 3 for Jabari Small. Only accounting for 2 scores. But man, I don't. You know what? I can't. I'm so happy right now because I know it's been a long time since Jaron Gorentano's been here, but that dude left a crimson stain, right?
Yeah.
And Hendon Hooker has covered a multitude of sins for us.
He sure has.
It makes me go like, okay, let's get the NCAA on the phone and say, what do we have to do? How much money do you want in order for us to get him back one more year? The dude's like 27 years old, right?
He is old.
He's 24, jokes aside, but
yeah.
What do we got to do to get him back? What a day by Hendon. And everywhere you go, every podcast, every Instagram post is talking about Hendon, SEC Offensive Player of the Week. But let me say this. if we come out on the losing end of this game, Hendon doesn't get that award, it's probably going to Anthony Richardson.
100%. 100%. And again, Richardson wasn't perfect. He capitalized on Tennessee's approach and their deficiencies where guys are lacking, where depth is lacking and talent is lacking. He capitalized. And had they won that game, he would be receiving that praise because he hadn't capitalized on anything to this point of the season except for running the ball and doing just barely enough as a passer to avoid some really bad losses.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? That's not what happened. It's
Sure
not
ain't,
what happened. You and I both crapped a brick when Florida got that onside kick. Matter of fact, I just want to tell everybody, I looked at you after their score and I said, I think it's time to panic. And you said, not yet. And I'm going, I think it's time to panic.
That's facts.
I could feel, listen, it's just psychological at this point. It was in the air. I could feel the shift in the air. I'm going, they're about to get this onside kick. I can feel it. And thank the Lord God Almighty that you cannot advance an onside kick.
Absolutely. I mean, we did bring him down, but that field position was clutch.
Oh, right.
I mean, truly, especially as much room as we were giving them. And you thought it was time to panic as they scored that touchdown. Me having watched their previous onside attempt, I was like, nah, dog, it's not time. Then they execute it perfectly. They one hand snag it just for the extra level of like, look at us. This is how we win these games against y'all. Mm-hmm. And I think one reason that I'm maybe not as critical as I probably would have been all of my life up to this point about the defense is because those things happened. Mm-hmm. Richardson rose to the level of this game, played his best game by far. Mm-hmm. And the voodoo happened at the end, but Tennessee came out on top.
Yeah,
that voodoo wasn't required in 2016 because Tennessee came back and didn't really leave any doubt about the time that game was over. But the voodoo happened on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And it's year 2 of Heupel, and it feels like it's way too soon to be beating Florida over the course of our downfall. But the voodoo happened and we won. And I think if that's just part of the reason I think I'm not as fire them all on defense.
If there was a curse, it was broken because we were able to overcome the touchdown, the onside kick, and avoiding the Hail Mary. And you know what? I believe it was Tyler Barron who needs to be credited for that last play where Kamal Hadden makes the pick. Kamal Hadden did not make that play. All right, all he's got to do is bat the ball down. I'm pretty sure it was Barron on that pressure who forced a throw that was short, right? It wasn't even to the end zone, and then picked off. Which the inerrant throw should be evident to everyone because the only people in the area were orange jerseys when that ball was coming down. I believe it was Kamal Hadden, Christian Charles, and Trayvon Flowers, if I remember right. There's not even a Florida receiver on screen. Right?
Not even close to where he wanted to throw that ball.
So anyway, all that said, if there was a curse, it's broken. All right, let's cap this whole thing off by talking special teams for a second. You and I, coming into this game, said we're going to have to fix the special teams unit, right? Or the punting unit.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Well, we didn't punt.
We fixed it. I mean, what do you know? Just that's the trick. Don't punt.
Don't punt. We didn't punt. So therefore, it's fixed. However, I'm hoping that we're going to spend some time in onside kick, right?
Definitely. Don't love the approach of kind of having one designated guy to receive the ball. And I understand the strategy there. I do, because you're supposed to pick those guys up that are coming from Florida. Mm-hmm. But a perfect bounce, you don't pick the guy up. Don't let this happen again because we exercised some demons. We won against all odds against the voodoo, but don't do that again. Like there's no need for it to be that way consistently.
Yeah. Chase McGrath, it's debated on whether we should have kicked that. I think it would have been a 51-yard attempt.
Agreed.
And I'm hearing some people say, well, he knocked one down at Pitt. I've thought a lot about that since you and I were in the stadium, because this was a conversation that you and I are having on the spot going, should we kick this?
Real time.
What do you do? I don't know. What do you do? Like, we're rolling dice. We're playing paper, rock, scissors. He is 2 for 6 from beyond 45 this year. Okay. So I got to think that Heupel's going, maybe not.
Yeah.
But at the same time you go, oh, he did it at Pitt.
Yeah.
In hindsight, Are you in agreement with it? I mean,
with going for it.
yeah.
I still am overall, and it's not as much about the kicker as it is the distance of the kick, where on 45, 50 plus, you're kicking a lower ball because you've got to give it the freaking power and the trajectory to make to the uprights.
Mm-hmm.
If Florida blocks that kick, if you even give them any semblance of hope to blocking that kick, a low kick, just having the opportunity, I'm avoiding that in that scenario. So for me, my order of operations was you go for it because your offense has been working. And we ran the same play that Bruce scored on there before half, with Hyatt coming in motion, kind of like a veerish motion, and guys flooding the other side of the field with various different routes. I don't know that I love that play call there. It was fine. I don't have a huge issue with it. Then I think my second order of option, I think we talked about this, is either a pooch punt from the quarterback or, heck, run the punt team out there. Nobody gets through. You're absolutely just trying to cough and corner it, make them drive the field. And then my third order of operations, if I absolutely have to, is to kick that field goal. And I just don't love it because of the low trajectory, things that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it's this season or career, but McGrath is like 2 for 6, like you said, over 50 yards or over 45 yards. So not ideal. Don't love the idea of kicking under any circumstances there. And that's kind of why I had that order of operations that we talked about.
Okay. So it sounds like you're pretty much in agreement. How are you going to grade this coaching performance out of Heupel? I don't think you need to say anything about Banks. Let's just talk about game management on Heupel's end.
The game management, I like it because you slow the tempo down, you make Florida use their timeouts. They still executed after that. That's fine. But you slow down, you avoided the tempo, because the worst thing you could have done is hurry up. Florida uses their timeouts, they get to stop, and they have the extra time. Mm-hmm. So you run the clock, you almost executed it. I mean, you truly did. It was close. Mm-hmm. You almost pulled it off to where you got if they get that first down, they ice the game away. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm okay with it. I'm not giving it anything lower than like a B- or a B, especially if I'm considering that moment, that fourth down. That's just where I'm at. Because and maybe it's selfishly because that's kind of what I would have done, but I'm okay with slowing the tempo down because the absolute worst thing you can do there is to go quick and not succeed. Mm-hmm. The only argument against it is that your offense worked all day, so why not just keep running it? But I mean, heck, you made Florida use the time. You took all the time possible without gaining the first down.
Yeah, I think it boils down to Heupel looking at the situation, saying, you know what, I trust my quarterback.
Agreed. I agree.
So yeah. Now Napier on the other end, some very suspect decisions, aside from just losing his cool, which they ended up paying a price for a little bit. Who knows how that would have unfolded if we don't get a fresh set of downs there. But his decision to go for 2 twice, I'm not. That screamed Butch Jones to me. It really did.
It was like the opposite Butch Jones, where he doesn't know what to do, or he's not trusting his chart if he has such a chart, because I know coaches do have those things. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's like I think he got hung up in aggression mode or something, man. Truly, like, I think his brain just kind of broke there, because his explanation, if you go listen to it, I do not agree with. Like, extend the game, take the game to overtime. Mm-hmm. Now, I think they had to go for 2 the second time in order to make it a field goal game, which they did not do. They did not execute. But that first 2-point conversion was just, to me, egregious. I don't care what your explanation is, because the sensible thing is Tennessee's defense is not playing well. Extend this game. If you have to win it in overtime, you've at least given yourself the opportunity to do that. So you just can't explain that one to me by playing the analytics of, hey, we're a road underdog. The chances of winning in overtime are not great, dude. The chances of going for 2 twice and not getting it, I mean, you just solidified that kind of.
Yeah, let me have you continue on this just for a second. Let me flip the script just a little bit. Let's say that we are Florida fans, okay, and everything unfolded the way that he did, and then he comes into his presser backing his decision, saying, you know what, however he worded it. He didn't say it is what it is. He said something along the lines of, we're going to live with it, yada, yada, yada. It's not like he took responsibility for it. He stood by the decision.
Yeah, he doubled down on it.
Yeah, he doubled down on it. If you're a Florida fan, are you going, shut up? Are you kidding? Are you pissed?
Yeah, dude, I don't want to hear it if I'm a Florida fan. And the other thing I'll add is I said this to you. I'm not sure if you'll remember, but I said, is he trying to win it in regulation? And I think he was. You can't tell me that he wasn't. I think he was trying to win the game in regulation, and heck, it almost worked without executing those. But if I'm a Florida fan, dude, I'm saying you created the hardest path possible for us to win this game because time is against you. Your defense is against you. Yeah, they got the stop in the end, but all the factors are against you. And you just play those odds against the team that we beat, because Florida fans don't look at this like the rivalry that it has always been. They see Tennessee as a team that they beat, and they have.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that I'm supposed to be okay with your explanation of why you did that? I'm not having it. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, we barely beat USF. They had to help us do that. We lose to Kentucky at home. That's something we also just don't do until recently. And then he does that on the road in Knoxville, a team we've beat time after time. I can't live with that. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm in disagreement because, and I know that hindsight is 2020, but if you just kick the field goal, if you take the 2 points there, the 2 extra points, sorry, then you go from having to throw a Hail Mary to kicking a field goal to taking this in overtime. But so you nailed it. You're spot on. So anyway, if I'm a Florida fan, I'm like, wow, thanks, man, because at least come out and say, hey, maybe that wasn't the best decision. You know, again, hindsight's 2020. I made the decision. We're going to have to live with it. I just don't love the way that he doubled down on it. But hey, let me go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I was just going to say that's the coach's personality, is to trust their instincts, and they are confident, maybe even arrogant people most of the times. They're going to go with their gut. They're usually not going to. A lot of coaches are not great at taking the blame and taking fault. So I understand it. I hate it though if I'm a Florida fan.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, let's end the show. I'm gonna throw some stuff at you, man, that I can't not share with our listeners. Coming out of this game into this week, Vols now lead the nation in total yards per game with 559. We are leading the nation.
Unbelievable.
Again, you're gonna see my body on OnlyFans. It's coming. Check this out. The Vols have not been ranked inside the top 8 since 2006. 2006. This, oh gosh, I cannot believe I'm about to say this. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't yet.
This was also the last time that Tennessee beat Alabama.
Oh, yes, I have heard that now that you mention it. Yeah. And listen, I'm so excited to the bye week is needed for Tennessee. Like, get Cedric as healthy as you can. Get Jabari Small as healthy as you can. Everybody else that's dinged and hindered after being a Warrior on Saturday, get them as healthy and as rested as you can. But I wish we had a game this week, dude.
Yeah.
But again, the bye week comes at a good time. Having 8 games after the bye, not great, but the schedule does lighten up there when it really will start wearing on us.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm so excited to talk about this LSU and Alabama game in the coming podcasts for us. To do what they've done, man, in not even 2 years, not even being on the job for 2 years, in their second season, there's no way that I could give them enough credit for that because of what they lost, what they were up against, the potential cloud of the NCAA, the quarterback situation, the depth situation. I mean, there's no way to give them enough credit. If they continue on this trajectory, Heupel will walk away with the Coach of the Year if they pull off a 9-3 or a 10-2. I mean, and let me also say this: that game Saturday, that win against Florida, boy, that sets you up for a floor of 8-4.
I think that floor has moved up. I think
I agree.
That floor is now 9-3.
I agree. I mean, there's no way unless the rails fall off that you miss 8-4, but 9-3 is very, very real right now. And if you beat Kentucky and LSU, you're giving yourself every chance for 10-11 wins if you pull one upset, but 10-2 if you just lose the games you're expected to lose. And I mean, there's, again, like I couldn't express my love for Hendon Hooker in the offseason. There's just no way to express how insane that is.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's saying it. It's not just us. I don't know how they're doing it because it was a just disaster, a tire fire when they walked into it, and they are doing things quickly with dudes that weren't very successful in their careers to this point.
Absolutely. Cedric Tillman says hello, right?
Says hello. And I got one thing I want to throw at you before we wrap this up.
Okay.
Coming into this game a week ago, you text me and told me that Florida, and we talked about it, had 10 plays of 20 yards on the season coming into the game. And we had 20 plays of 20 yards or more coming into the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is something because of that conversation we had that I'm going to be now keeping track of. I'll probably look at before our LSU podcast. I'll probably look and see how many they've had on the year because it's just fascinating to me. Well, in this game, like I said, 20 for Tennessee coming in, 10 for Florida, plays of 20 yards or more coming into this game. Florida had 8 in this game.
Oh my gosh.
All pass plays. Now, both teams had, if you were to lower this down to like 14, 16 yards, dude, it would approach like 20 plus plays in this game by both teams. I mean, there were so many 14, 16-yard plays in this game. Tennessee had 6 plays of 20 yards or more in this game. All of Florida's were via the pass. Their longest run was like 14 or 16 yards. And like I said, Tennessee had 6, 4 in the air, 2 on the ground, both one by Hendon, one by Jabari. So that's a thing that I'll be looking into all season long. That's a fascinating conversation for me.
Well, the rest of the world is going to hold you to your job now. All right. I'm actually not done. I've got more stuff to throw at you. You ready for this?
My bad.
You're good. No, you're good. In the year 2022, this is celebratory stuff. Okay. In the year 2022, Tennessee baseball, Tennessee basketball, and football are a combined 6-0 against Florida. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Check this out.
It's a beautiful thing.
Hendon Hooker is the second quarterback in Vol history. All right. Do you know where this is going? To record a game of 300 plus passing yards and 100 plus rushing yards, joining Joshua Dobbs. Beautiful, man. Like, listen, if you're annoyed with us at this point, if you're listening, shut up. This has been
you better pray that the rails fall off because it's going to get worse.
Well, I mean, just let us celebrate. If you're not a Tennessee fan, you might just want to go ahead and shut us off at this point. One last thing that I want to share: Josh Heupel is the first Vols head coach to have 3 wins. Have you heard this one?
Not sure yet.
3 wins over top 20 opponents in his first 17 games since Philip Fulmer.
My man.
My
freaking man, dude.
So Dooley never beat Florida, right? Butch took him year 4. Year 4. And Pruitt never did it.
Pruitt never got close. Pruitt got closer to beating Alabama than he did beating Florida. And again, Mullen, Pruitt, 2 different dudes that their careers ran alongside each other at their respective schools. Heupel in year 2, it just doesn't, because of how far we've fallen, it didn't seem possible, even though it was expected to happen. It didn't seem possible. And dude, so freaking excited to see where this goes.
Absolutely. I'm going to say one thing and we're going to close the show. You made a remark about this rivalry, this Tennessee-Florida rivalry, and how Florida fans just don't see it this way. You know what? I think that is still okay to say.
Agreed.
We are going to have to go down to Gainesville and pull out a win at some point. We're going to have to do more than once, beat them more than once in order to say, okay, this is a rivalry again. If a Florida fans wants to say this is not a rivalry, I am still going to have to throw my hands up and say, yeah, I think you're right.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah. Even after this win, because even though it was a win, even though it was fantastic for Tennessee fans, it almost fell apart. But it didn't fall apart, and we're going to have to get us one in Gainesville. The last time that we've won a game in Gainesville, I believe, is 2001. It's either 01 or 03, and I think
it's 03, but I think it's 03, but for sure 01, but I do believe it might be 03.
Okay, well, I can tell you how I can tell you a play inside of that game. There's a Hail Mary from Casey to James Banks.
We definitely won in 03 then, because I was wondering when that Hail Mary was, and we won that game. So.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's been a really, really long time. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap up Tennessee, Florida. Celebrate with us. You know the best way that they can celebrate, Mike? They can hit the share button. They can hit the follow button.
Absolutely.
They can tell their mamas and their daddies. They can say, "Hey, listen, Dan and Mike, you want your ears tickled? You need to go listen to Pandemonium Reigns."
Absolutely.
Hey, the show is growing. We're well over, I believe it's even 600.
Pandemonium Reigns.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is Pandemonium Reigns. Volunteers beat Florida Gators 38-33. Celebrate it while you can, because LSU is waiting. Hope you guys have a fantastic week.
Love you guys.
Love ya.
Pandemonium Reigns.